Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another FAAA podcast for the Financial Advice Association of Australia. My name is Matthew Canizay. I'm currently a Client Services Officer at Pursue Wealth based in South Melbourne. And I'm joined today by Jessica Dean. So Jessica is a certified financial planner at Globe Financial Planning in Western Australia. Jessica won the summer semester, it was for 2023, the Gwen Fletcher Memorial Award. So that recognises a student who has the highest academic results throughout their course. So I guess congratulations to you, Jessica, and yeah, welcome as well. Did you just want to tell us a little bit about yourself before we jump into the questions today?
Good afternoon, Matthew. Thank you very much for the kind introduction. Absolutely. So I am a certified financial planner. I work at Globe Financial Planning in Perth. So it's midday for me at the moment, it's afternoon for you. Um, and I've been here for nearly 5 years. Actually, the 7th of January coming up will be the 5-year mark.
Wow.
Um, yeah, so prior to working here, I was working at a bank straight out of uni, and I got some exposure to financial planning then. And that's what really sparked my interest, but I hated the banking world. That wasn't for me. So I got a entry-level job. I was a client service officer like yourself at the start, a few years ago now. And then, yeah, very early on, I was super keen to start the pathway towards financial planning. And 5 years later, here we are. So I just did my professional year last year. So I'm now advising clients, which is pretty cool.
That's super exciting. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I guess, yeah, also the professional year, it's a little bit, there's still some muddy waters around it in terms of it's only been around for, 3 or 4 years now.
Yes.
And I know, yeah, there are some licensees and dealer groups who are a bit less willing to take on PY candidates
Mm,
because I do understand that it is a bit of a cost and liability to the licensee holder. So I think
absolutely.
it's really good that you've been able to jump into that role, from a bank client services position, and yeah, now blossomed into a CFP and award winner as well.
Pretty fantastic. I
It's
um I do feel pretty fortunate with the professional year. Fortunately, my boss and I have been on the same page for some time about my progression, and it was kind of a natural process anyway. The professional year was kind of formalizing what we were already doing and progressing towards anyway. So very fortunate that that was a success. But I was the first one. We are a small business. I was the first one to do it, so we're both trying to work it out as we're going along. So I think everyone who's considering the professional year or doing it is in the same boat.
Yeah, no, and I think that's the biggest thing as well is just having your employer on board and on your side as well. I know just
Absolutely.
time conscious here, might jump onto the first question. So,
Oh,
what drove your decision to pursue a CFP qualification?
yeah, well, there's a couple of reasons. I think the main one for me is, I'm a young professional, I'm a female, and I just wanted to get as much qualifications and education behind me as I could. And I wanted to do the most that I could so that I can sit in front of clients who are, maybe twice my age and have, a world of life experience that I just can't even imagine yet. And I just wanted to give myself that backing and that peace of mind to know actually you do know your stuff and you can give advice to these clients who are twice your senior perhaps. So I think getting that doing more than what was required of me to really prove I knew my stuff was probably the main motivation. But I was also working through my graduate diploma when Kaplan and the FPA at the time came up with the integrated masters. So that was seemed like just like a no-brainer for me. Do a couple extra units with Kaplan and do the certification unit and be a CFP and have a master of financial planning. Like, how cool is that? So that just really sold it for me.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I think the fact that the FPA and Kaplan at the time combined it together, it was so much, there was obviously be so much more incentive for you to actually pursue with that qualification as you.
Absolutely, yeah. It was great, and going from doing a Kaplan to the CFP was definitely a step up, like in terms of the complexity and the challenge. But it was my final unit of my masters as an elective to just finish it off, and it's been a great experience.
Yeah, no, that's great to hear. Next question is, what advice would you give to someone who is thinking about enrolling in the CFP qualification?
Sure. Okay. Well, there's a lot, but I won't go on too much.
All right.
I think, as I said just now, it's a challenge. Like this probably was the toughest level of study I've ever done. So be mindful of that. It's not a walk in the park. And on that as well, it is a time commitment. So make sure that you're deciding to do it at a time when you can really commit to it. So, there's 2 semesters and also the summer semester. So pick a time of year that you can actually dedicate yourself to it because you need to. For me, what I found worked best is I set a time. Mornings was when I found my brain works the best. I've
Yeah.
tried studying in the afternoons, it just doesn't work for me. So in the morning, I had a scheduled time in my diary. That was when I was going to study, and you kind of had to commit to that so that I had the regular time to be able to get the assignment done and study for the exam because it is a big time commitment. So I think that's probably the biggest piece of advice I can give is to make sure you've got the time dedicated to completing the unit.
Yeah, no, that's a great bit of advice. I think time management's a big thing for anything in life, really. But
Mm.
it's good to hear that you've absolutely nailed it by the sounds of it.
Yes, finally got to the end of my studies and finally figured out how to study.
Yeah, it's one of those things you don't actually really know, how to actually study until you've
Yes,
finished it, and you're like, oh, I kind of do realize now and
yes.
understand a bit more.
At least I can share that with others now.
That's right, exactly. What was your best experience, or I guess highlight, when completing the CFP certification or qualification?
Yeah, well, I'd be lying if I didn't say it was completing and winning the Gwen Fletcher Award.
Hmm.
Honestly, it was tough, and I wasn't sure if I had passed. So when I was logging in, I was so nervous, just hoping to have completed it and achieved the CFP. So at first, I saw that I had passed, so I was so relieved. It was such a good feeling. I felt so proud. And then I continued reading, and I discovered that I'd actually received the top mark, and I won the Gwen Fletcher Memorial Award, which was just mind blowing. That wasn't even on my radar. So that was really cool. I just felt super proud, and it was such a fantastic award to win. And the certificate I've received is just beautiful. I need to hang it up on the wall actually. So I think completing and winning the award was got to be my highlight. Like, how could that not be? But something on a bit more practical term, I really enjoyed the assignment. It was such a challenge. You work through a client scenario which is really nuanced and unique, and that was a really good preparation for being a real advisor. Every client is different and there's always something that's a little tricky. So it was a really good way to kind of think outside the box, test your knowledge, and trying to give it your all. I feel like I did give a bit of my soul to that assignment, I have to say.
Yeah. No, I think it's really good that you were given that, practical situation because, yeah, at the FAA Congress in Adelaide a few weeks ago, I was giving advice to, sponsored students who were able to attend, and about what kind of, what part or what bit of advice would I focus on when giving to them. And it's really in financial advice about having that practical experience that you can implement, knowledge from university or studies into, whether it's through a client services role, whether it's through university assignments. It's a real practical profession
Mm.
that we are. And having, both sides is really important.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. I know working through my grad dip initially, you'd be learning concept, and at first it seems quite foreign because you're reading it from a textbook. But then when you see that actually come to life with real clients that you're working with, it all just clicks and comes together. So
Yeah.
the more practical work you can do along with your studies, the more you actually learn and understand.
Mm. No, I completely agree. Do you think there's a role in Australia for designations like the CFP qualification?
Absolutely, of course. As much as the education standard has risen in Australia for advisors, other than the experience pathway, everyone should be degree qualified and well educated. But that's just the minimum requirement, right? I, I care about my clients and want to be the best that I can be. And being a CFP, I think demonstrates that. And also continual learnings and events as part of being a CFP. So it's a great community of, like-minded professionals. There's great resources, and it absolutely makes sense.
Yeah, no, that's great to hear. Yeah. I think just that transparency as well throughout, being an internationally recognized qualification and
Yeah,
certification. Is there.
that is pretty cool, globally recognized. I'm in
Mm,
Perth and I don't plan on leaving anytime soon, but it is good to know.
for sure. What are your, I guess, yeah, what's your impression about the changes to advisor education?
Well, to be honest, I don't have a huge opinion about this because when I started, it was already the current education requirements. So
Yeah.
I'd always expected to have the relevant degree, do the exam, do the professional year. And I think that's a great process. That's a great way to learn. And I think that's what it should be. Like, we are helping our clients with such important things, helping them make crucial decisions. We should be, degree qualified, and we should be mentored into before we're just let loose to give advice. And I mentioned earlier, I think the professional year process in big or small businesses is crucial, because it is a challenge to go from, learning about superannuation from your textbook to being in front of a client, explaining advice, handling queries. It is such a journey, and having a mentor for 12 months to help you get there, I think is great.
Yeah, exactly. And I think as well, kind of, when you are in that university, more academic setting, it's all this technical jargon that you
Mm,
sit in front of a client and you're expected to kind of dumb it down a little bit,
yeah,
because you can dumb it down, but break it down in more simplistic terms,
yeah,
because, your average person's not going to know what, the superannuation tax rules are, or, contribution strategies and what concessional and non-concessional means. So really
absolutely.
about breaking it down and making it easy for them to understand.
Yeah, that's so important. I know sometimes when I'm preparing for an advice meeting, I've done the work, I've written the statement of advice, which is very technical, but then I
Mm.
sit back and reflect, well, actually, what are the key things that we're providing advice on? What's the key messages? And what do they need to know? What do they need to understand? And that is not necessarily what's written word for word in the statement of advice. So they're two very different skills there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's good to see posts, what Stephen Jones has come out and said last week, just about removing the need for those, 80, 70, 80 page
Mm,
SOAs,
yes,
and having something that replaces it instead. It's a bit
definitely.
concise
I
and easy for
I
the
love
client.
using visuals and drawing,
Mm.
or preparing a summary, because, you know, clients don't respond to a wall of text. They want to see how it works. And when using pictures or diagrams or drawing on the whiteboard,
Mm.
really, I think help sink in the message, and point out the key points as well. So more of that, I think, will be in
Yeah.
everyone's best interest.
Yeah. No, that's great. Well, thank you so much, Jessica, for joining me on this podcast. Hope that everyone has enjoyed it.
Most welcome. It's been a good fun.
It's been good fun. Thank you so much. And no doubt we'll talk soon.